Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And this is take 3. I told you guys sometimes I start off and I just keep stumbling over my words in the first couple sentences. So we're on take 3 and I'm going to keep going for this one. Okay, this month's listener challenge, the daily serenity prayer. The Serenity Prayer Daily Reflection. I'm not hitting stop again and re-recording, so we're going to keep going. So those of you who are participating in the challenge, today's writing prompt is, how did the Serenity Prayer help you deal with a moment of anger or frustration today? Don't worry if you did not have any anger or frustration today. Number 1, be grateful so you can practice your gratitudes from our previous challenge. And you can just think back to another time when you were frustrated or angry, maybe sometime in the past week or whenever, if you're lucky enough to rarely be angry and frustrated, just dig deep and try to find a time that you were angry and frustrated and how the Serenity Prayer, if you recite that, would help you get through that. Okay, so today I want to talk about connection in recovery, specifically the synergy of shared experiences. So I had a phone call today that reminded me that I'm not alone and that renewed hope came to me again. That I might improve, and gave me confidence that I'm headed, or I may be at least headed in the right direction for my diagnosis path. So I want to talk about my experience today, the benefits of connecting with someone that is walking a parallel path with you, or someone who has walked the path before you and has the willingness to guide people along and help them maybe do it a little easier than they did. So you all know that this is the heart of my passion and my values, to communicate and learn and help each other and be a human being among human beings and help one another. So before I get too far into the meat of the episode, I hate using the word meat because I'm vegan now, and I'm vegan for health reasons, not for I think I explained it to you guys, I still have leather seats in my car. I'm just doing it for health reasons, but I try to avoid using the word meat because it just, I don't know, makes me think of maybe you shouldn't be using that if you're vegan. I know, it's silly. So anyway, before I get too far into the content, there you go, of the episode, I connected my experiences today with a song, as I've been doing the past several days, because this is my version of music therapy for myself, as I talk to my psychiatrist about. And this is to elicit as much as I can out of my quote-unquote feeler. So, I talk about my wanter. Well, now I'm starting to talk about my feeler. So today's song is One Call Away by Charlie Puth. And here are the thoughts, what my feeler had to say today when I listened to this song. Side note, when I listen to the song, I write these notes down and I don't allow myself to go back and look at them or edit them for fear that I will change their meaning or their impact. And I feel like as they sit on the paper, the first time I listen to the song reveals how deeply I connected with the song in these ways. It reminds me of when I wrote poetry for years when I was younger. I know there's a lot of poets who know what this is like, but I didn't want to ever go back and change any of the words of my poetry because I felt like it was changing the emotion into something that um is easier to ingest by the audience. And that wasn't the purpose of me writing the poetry. The purpose was for me to get those feelings out. It was therapy. I didn't knowingly go into writing poetry because I thought, oh, you know what, Rach, you need to do therapy, and here's a great way to do it. You're going to write poetry. It wasn't like that. I just had so much in my feeler, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I just started writing, and it turned out to be hundreds and hundreds of poems. But when I did write poetry, I didn't like to go back and change it. And that's how I feel right now when I'm writing down my thoughts with regard to these songs. So much of what I write down is what the lyrics say, and I'll either expand on part of it or, whatever. It's free time. I can write whatever I want because why? Because that's what we do in this podcast. We do whatever the hell we want. Okay. Let's focus, Rachel. Okay. So, here is what I wrote down for while I listened to One Call Away by Charlie Puth. This is Rachel's brain. Help is only one call away. Anyone can save my day. People don't even know how much they are helping me, just knowing I'm not alone. You don't have to understand, but most of you do. Save me today. Tomorrow is later. I'm scared without you. I'm trapped in this head that aches. I know he is here too. But I need you to talk with me. Sometimes I can't hear him. I feel weak today. My head hurts. But one person understands, and he's one call away. You are all super friends, and you have no idea. I have to call, though. And that's the end of it. It didn't end very poetically, did it? Anyway, people are one call away, but we have to pick up the phone. That's the hard part. And okay, so going further into what I got to experience today. So I met a man through the vestibular disorder conference that was held by the Vestibular Disorder Association last week. And I posed a question to over 1,000 online attendees in the, Q&A area, whether there was anyone who suffered vestibular dysfunction as a result of a stroke. So one woman replied, and she gave me this man's name, who happened to be an ambassador of the organization. He's very involved in Vestibular Disorder Association. So I looked him up. I stalked him and I emailed him. I sent him a message on the conference. I think I sent him a LinkedIn message, and then I guess I emailed him, or he responded and asked me, or gave me his email address. So we started emailing him. We started emailing each other. And I was really excited that he responded so quickly, and he scheduled a phone call with me for this morning. So I was I was anticipating, like, it's the first time that not the first time, but in this situation that I'm in where I'm experiencing everything that I'm experiencing, and I'm setting up these calls to talk to different people, like I talked to um, Metro, the DC Metro District President of the Foundation for Fighting Blindness. I talked to her. I talked to this man. Like, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling these people because I need help. And I don't feel nervous. Throughout my whole career, um, I used to always get nervous when I had to talk to strangers, number one, when I had to talk to people that were older than me, also, when I talked to people that held any sort of hierarchical position in any organization or anything like that. And what's different now is that, and I should have known this back then, right? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. But I just have to be me, and I just have to share my experiences and what's going on with me, my story. I know I already have everything I need in order to have this conversation with this person. What I'm looking back on, and those of you who are out there still in the working force, this is something that I intellectually knew and tried to encourage myself that, Rachel, you have the tools, you have the knowledge, you have the expertise in your field. You will be able to handle any conversation with anybody. Doesn't matter who it is, with the owner of the company, the president of the company, any executive. You have what it takes to deal with that. Don't be nervous. But I just could not convince myself that that was true. And that's unfortunate, but it's okay to say, I don't know. And I did learn that over the years. But I just think it's interesting that now I'm so easily connecting with these people because I'm on a mission, and I have this goal and I have this experience, and it's my life. I'm fighting for fullness and contentment in my life. I'm fighting for joy for myself. And so how much am I willing to sacrifice in order to do that? I haven't reached my limit yet. That's for sure. Clearly, I'm willing to sacrifice pain because I'm a glutton for punishment as I continue to use devices probably far beyond my limit for head pain in order to seek out this network of survivors and people suffering from vestibular disorders, people with low vision, blindness, people who are recovering alcoholics, people who are suffering alcoholics. Like, I'm doing all of this because I'm fighting for myself. It's selfish, right? It's selfish, but yet I want to pick up as many people and hold them under my wings as I fly. You know what I mean? Okay, so I went way off on a tangent. So let me see if I can find my way back to where we are in the script here. So as I talk about some of the information that him and I connected about with our shared experiences, I want to highlight the incredible benefits of picking up the phone in recovery. And I feel those benefits today. Now, I understand, and it's important for me, I think, that I articulate this. I'm in the middle of listening to Identity Theft, which is a book written by a stroke survivor, and she suffers from aphasia along with a lot of other stuff. She suffered multiple strokes, massive, and I want to touch on the fact that I know there is a large community of folks in recovery that are unable to or have difficulty communicating due to aphasia. I can't imagine the inner dialogue that happens with these patients who struggle to communicate. And I don't want to go terribly far into that topic because, number one, I am not someone, I do have slight aphasia, but it's nothing that anybody else can notice. Only I notice how hard I have to work, and which is the reason why I have this script here. So I stay on point because I can't remember all of this stuff on my own. So I can only speak of my distinct challenges that are centered around chronic daily headaches and intermittent like stabbing pains in my head, and the intolerance to movement, lights, patterns, and sometimes sounds in my environment. So these are the deficits or the impairments that I'm talking about when I say about the incredible benefits of picking up the phone in recovery, because my heart aches for those that are unable to do that. Absolutely aches. And I will put information in the description of this episode sharing the book that I'm reading called Identity Theft. That gives a little more information about stroke survivors suffering from aphasia. Okay, so I learned how to pick up the phone in sobriety. And it has taken me over 7 years of internal battles convincing myself to pick up the phone and reach out for help. And even picking up the phone when I just don't feel right. It's not just picking up the phone when something's wrong. So we learn in sobriety, pick up the phone every day. Pick up the phone every day. That's one of the reasons why in my world famous schedule on my whiteboard in my bedroom, it has a line that says call somebody. That's why, because I recognize that I have to get back into that habit of picking up the phone when everything is okay, so that when everything is not okay, I have that automatic reaction or habit to pick up the phone and call somebody. So I apologize. I keep losing my place because my eyes aren't working very well this evening. But I'm grateful that I'm not as scared of the phone as I used to be. And these are the benefits I get from picking up the phone. And I'll share a little bit about what I talked about with this gentleman. So the first benefit, which I experienced today, was validation. There is an instant kinship in hearing someone articulate your pain. I experienced this in sobriety when I first got sober. Describing your pain with almost the same words. Today, my new stroke friend, and we're going to call him Mr. Stroke Friend because I don't use people's names in my podcast without their permission. He asked me what my headaches feel like. So I told him, because I have lots of layers of headaches. I have an underlying layer, and that's the one I described to him. And I said it feels like a hangover. That is an underlying constant discomfort that I have. So after I explained that layer, he explained his headaches. And he said it feels like a band-like headache, like a vice around his head, and it's slowly being tightened. And those of you who are lifetime listeners, meaning you've been listening to my podcast for 9 months, you know that I have often compared my head pain, this is the second layer, to 100 rubber bands wrapped around my head, and new rubber bands keep being added. So there's my validation. He said band-like head pain. It feels like a band wrapped around your head. And that's exactly what I have been dealing with for 2.5 years. So Mr. Stroke Friend validated this feeling that I've had for over 2 years. It's incredible to have somebody say something that you're experiencing before you tell them, Yeah. So, okay. So that's number one is validation. And I don't know that these are in any particular order, but that's a big one for me. So benefit number 2 is hope. So discussing our journeys together and hearing about the improvements he experienced after vestibular therapy, which I am on the cusp of starting myself tomorrow, in fact, brought a bit of hope for me. So during my rest time today, which I lay down every afternoon. Most afternoons, my lay down turns into a nap. Sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's 4 hours. And today I just couldn't sit still. I listened to my book, the book that I'm listening to. But I actually had a moment that I was laying there and I felt lighter. It was like the inside of me. It's the best way I can describe it. It's like there was air. There was air that was inserted into my chest. Like I felt like I could expand. Like I felt like it was a blast of sun shiny, warm air that was just inflated into my chest. That's what I felt like when I was laying there. It felt like I was a little less heavy with worries. Like I almost could see my path. Almost. It felt like, and I know our paths are different, this gentleman and I, but it felt like I have an idea of what my life might look like. And I felt a bit more accepting that I can find joy where I'm at and wherever I land. So tomorrow, the vestibular therapist will lay out a roadmap, a plan for me, and will have milestones that each will be, within reach. And all that means for me is like, okay, for the next 2 days, I want you to practice doing this. I can do that. I can follow direction and come back and say, this is how I feel. I've done it before. I did it in vision therapy. But I just wasn't sold that was what was wrong with me. And that's why I stopped vision therapy, because I really wasn't quite certain that was the right path. And I'm glad that I stopped and I kept pursuing, because these doctors, they don't know. They really don't know. They are checking off boxes, and it's a diagnosis of exclusion. I think. Is that what I called it the other day? Diagnosis of exclusion. I think it's exclusion. Um, so they don't know, and I think it has given me the opportunity to keep pursuing different specialists, and my symptoms are very, very much in line with this vestibular disorder. So it's been 9 months since I quit working, and I have felt very much like I've been in the dark. And I feel like the only thing that anybody wants to do, I guess anyone, meaning my neurologist, is give me medications. And I understand and I appreciate the fact that they want my pain to go away, but I want to know why I have pain. And what I was afraid of is they would give me medications that I would become dependent on without understanding really what was wrong with my body. And I'm hoping that this path is going to determine that. I'm hopeful that tomorrow's vestibular evaluation will be more telling as to if I do in fact have symptoms that mimic this PPPD that I've talked about in previous episodes. And the vestibular migraine is pretty much very much in line. And she said that my symptoms are consistent with vestibular migraine, so I guess I'll take it. I don't know. And my understanding is that they are evaluating my eye movement and they have different tests that they do. So I will update you tomorrow. I'm very excited. I know it's going to make me feel terrible, but I'm excited to start going in this new direction. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's the right direction. So benefit 3 is support. And sometimes it's just hearing another person's voice that drops the tension in my shoulders. The experiences that another person can offer, whether they're related or not, I had somebody the other day who said, I'm sorry you're experiencing that. The only thing that I can relate with is, and she told me an experience of hers, and it was so distant and unrelated, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Like, I was so grateful to have this person sharing with me something that was very painful for her, because it made my pain feel like it was being heard. So having people share their experiences with me, a new perspective, they are able to shine a light on either stuff I've been avoiding looking at or stuff that I didn't even see right in front of me. Recovery can be very lonely, but shared challenges can link us together as human beings. And knowing someone else has fought this battle before me is so incredibly reassuring. Mr. Stroke Friend talked about challenges that he had with neurologists, and he had to seek out 5 or 6 neurologists to get what he needed, to get a diagnosis, to be heard. It's unfortunate, but that's how much it takes. And as someone who today just made my appointment with my 3rd neurologist, it's actually my 4th, but we're going to just ignore the 3rd one because I never even went. I had made an appointment with somebody else a couple days ago, but it was so far out and it was virtual that I I ended up going to a different recommendation from my ENT. So this one is still 3 months out, but it's not virtual, which is important. I need to be there in person because I need to bring my MRIs and all of that stuff. So I understand. I understand what it's like to go to multiple neurologists, because the first neurologist that I went to, or that came to me when I was in the hospital after I had my stroke, did not show up into my hotel room, my hospital room, not hotel room, but some days it felt like a hotel room as they were bringing me my Coca-Colas and my food and everything. But the neurologist didn't come for like 5 days. The neurologist. That is crazy. I mean, I had a stroke. It's in my brain. The neurologist didn't show up. So I met that neurologist again after I left the hospital, and he was nice. He was really, I really liked him, but that was the last time I ever heard from him, and I couldn't get through the phone line to make another appointment. It's weird. It's weird. So now I've been going to this neurologist, but I seem to be the one that's doing all of the research and recommendations for going to a neuropsychiatrist, neuro-ophthalmologist, vestibular, or a neurotologist, ENT. Like, I'm the one who's doing that research and recommendations. So it's a little strange to me. And I think the biggest red flag that I've had is that when I went to this ENT, she said, I didn't even ask for another neurologist or a second opinion. She gave me another neurologist, 3 other neurologists, and said, if you want a second opinion, why don't you try these other headache specialists? And I was like, all right. So that seems like a red flag. So I'm doing it. Okay. So continuing to talk to this Mr. Stroke friend, what I heard, it's not what he said, but what I heard was that it's okay for me to be frustrated. It's okay for me to keep seeking answers, even when a doctor says, this is what's wrong with you. Don't let other people or doctors or anybody make you give up your fight. And, it's exactly what I felt talking to him today was exactly what I feel when I talk to another recovering alcoholic. It's just this invisible bond that you have with somebody who has suffered the same way that you have. And it's this you don't even need to articulate it to each other. You're not alone. It's just this feeling. And so one thing that he said a couple times before we hung up is, you can call me anytime. And that's why this song was so related for me today. What he was saying is, I'm only one call away. And staying in contact moving forward means that we've each gained an ally and an ambassador of understanding, right? So to Mr. Stroke Friend, if you're out there, and if I know you as a recovering, as a stroke survivor and another vestibular disorder survivor, I don't know what you call that, a vestie, I think that's what I heard were called vesties. So to Mr. Stroke Friend and your wife, who I'm going to call Mrs. Stroke Friend, who reached out today, who shared their story with me. I do hope that you're listening, and I'm honored if you are. And I want to thank you. You've been a lighthouse during a time that has gotten very dark for me. I'm forever grateful for your time and your willingness to commit your time to help others. So thank you. I can't say it enough. Thank you for what you did for me today. I really appreciate it. And I will stay in touch with you. And I will let you know how my vestibular therapy appointment goes tomorrow. And I hope everybody cross your fingers. Everybody cross your fingers. So as for the rest of you listeners, connect with someone. Pick up the phone, no matter how heavy it is, because this journey of recovery, our shared storylines are lifelines for each other. Don't text each other. Call. I'm the first one to say that I'm a texter, but I feel like this ability to text has put a gaping hole between us. And I've learned so much the value of picking up the phone and speaking, using my voice to share what's going on inside of me. It's something that my fingers texting what's going on inside of me don't do. It doesn't do it. It's not the same. So know that help is only one call away. I truly mean that. Those that are suffering from any invisible illness, help is one call away. So thank you all for joining me today on the Recovery Daily podcast, and I will talk to you tomorrow.